when I first came on with Senior Life, it came out of a desperate need because my husband had almost died.
I remember the commitment, right? There was a lack of commitment. The words were great.
Yeah.
The words were great, but then the action, there was a missing part there. Do you remember that? What was going on in your head?
Said I would do that ever. I swore I would never do that.
How did you go from that to working commission-based, controlling your income, controlling your hours? What interests you in that?
Something had to change. And when I went back to work at this job that I loved, that I was making very good money at, I got fired 2 days later.
Oh, wow.
Because of my mouth.
That's awesome.
I
Congratulations.
know.
I'm so happy for you.
Even though I left Mad, you still followed me on Facebook. You still celebrated my successes on Facebook. And I was like, what kind of person does that? He's so smug.
Welcome to my show of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, where we hear from regular people who got tired of living their ordinary lives and were not afraid to make that jump.
You gotta be different. You can't be doing what everyone else is doing. You gotta create action. You gotta create momentum. So I'm looking for demand and I'm looking for mentorship because I wanted to know everything my mentor knew.
People who are just like you and me. Hello, my name is David Price. Thank you for tuning in today. If you see something that you like, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want to keep up to date on all the new content that we have, please hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell to get notifications. Today is another episode of Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. I'm here with Kristen. Hello, Kristen.
Hi.
Kristen, she started with us and then she thought grass was going to be greener on the other side and she drifted off and went over to State Farm. We're going to hear a little bit about that and some other things about Kristen's journey. So how's everything going today, Kristen?
That's good.
So let's start off. Tell me a little bit about your background, a little bit, before you got your insurance license and started working with us. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in sales for about 20 years, and I have 2 degrees in college. And my degrees were focusing on more like administrative and operations background because I really didn't want to be in sales. People kept telling me that's what I was geared for and made to do. But I kept wanting I wanted a paycheck. So that's why I went more towards operations and running businesses and things like that. But for some reason, I couldn't get away from the sales side of things. So I just kind of stuck with it, but I always had a paycheck. I was never just commission only based, and I never said I would do that ever. I swore I would never do that. And I don't know why. I guess because I never trusted myself or any business to where I could take care of my family and do well with that kind of structure. So, I mean, my whole life's pretty much been sales and a little bit of background in operations, but I sold cars, houses, jewelry, mattresses, anything that's pretty much not nailed down.
What's your favorite thing that you've sold?
Well, insurance, of course.
Insurance. Before insurance, did you have a favorite?
I really enjoyed selling cars. And, you have that typical car salesman mentality where, you don't want to be a used car salesman. But I found that I was able to the clientele that I had, I was able to really help them. Like they were people that had been saving for cars. They just got their credit score up and finally could buy a car. A lot of first time people owning their first car. So I really enjoyed being a part of that experience with them that, there's a few moments in life that are super important. And that's one of them is when you buy a car. It's a very emotional buying experience that you get to share with the client.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, you make a lot more money on used cars than new cars.
Yes, you do. You
so it's
do.
a little bit better to be a used car salesman than a new car salesman.
Yeah, definitely.
So what interests you? So you went from sales for 20 years, not ever wanted to be commissioned, thinking that guaranteed paycheck was the way and gives you that sense of security. So how did you go from that to working commission-based, controlling your income, controlling your hours? What interests you in that?
Well, a couple of things. The one thing was I knew Jennifer Cormier, and she and I met at the gym and we cycled together. And of course, anybody who knows her personality is contagious. She's like a flame and moths are drawn to her. But I watched her go from being a housewife to selling jewelry from her bedroom with her mentally impaired brother knocking down her set and everything. And, that was, but I was her biggest client. I loved to watch what she was doing. And so I watched her go from doing that to selling insurance. And she would tell me about it and try and explain it to me. And I just really wasn't hearing it because I knew it was commission only. So I was like, I'm never doing that.
Right.
But I kept watching and she kept making more money and she kept talking about all these clients that she had and these meetings, and I would see her winning stuff and I'm like, man, she's really important. So that intrigued me because when she walked into a room, people listened. Clients, peers, just people listened when she spoke. So she went from being completely in oblivion to a woman that walked into a room and people listened. Right. And she started making a lot of money. Like she went from, I can't afford that to let me take care of that.
Right.
And that really piqued my interest too.
That's awesome. So you got your insurance license. Was that an easy process for you?
It was really simple. I blew through the course. I looked over the flashcards, took the test, passed the first time. That wasn't a hard process at all. And when I first came on with Senior Life, it came out of a desperate need because my husband had almost died. And I was working a job at the time that I absolutely loved. It was one of my favorites. I was running operations for a mobile home company, and my husband almost died. He was on life support for 8 days, and I was sorry. Yeah, but he's good. He's good now. But we didn't know that at the time. Like he had congestive heart failure. Like he just went from a perfectly healthy man to a very sickly man wearing a defibrillator machine, talking about a heart transplant. And he was always the breadwinner because he was the tugboat captain. So I never really had to worry about a big income for myself.
Right.
My stuff was just a bonus. But when that happened, we have children and we had just bought our first home. I actually paid our first mortgage by his bedside while he was on a breathing machine. Wow. So something had to change. And when I went back to work at this job that I loved, that I was making very good money at, I got fired 2 days later.
Oh, wow.
Because of my mouth. My boss.
I am so surprised.
Yeah. I just wasn't meant to work for anybody. But yeah, I got fired 2 days later, and it was 2 weeks before Christmas, and my sick husband was at home not working. So I found myself in a moment where I realized that, what he has now, at any moment, something bad could happen, and it would just be me. So I called Jen up in tears, and I was like, I'm ready. Teach me what to do. I'm scared, and I need to protect my family. So she prayed with me, and then we moved forward into insurance for the next 4 months.
I remember talking to you. I remember you having that strong why. I got to make sure my husband doesn't die. I got to make sure that, I got to help. I got to do my part now. And then I remember the commitment, right? There's a lack of commitment. The words were great.
Yeah.
The words were great, but then the action, there was a missing part there. Do you remember that? What was going on in your head, or what was holding you back?
So the first 4 months, I was learning everything, and I was a field agent.
Right.
And I was driving around every day. Not every day. Who are we kidding? I wasn't every day. I was driving around, attempting to follow a very easy system, but also at the time I didn't know it. But I also was struggling from PTSD. Okay. So sitting and talking, what I thought would save my family was very difficult for me because my husband was still, his heart rate was dropping, and sitting and talking with people about their final wishes was really hard for me. It was almost paralyzing. So I wanted to help them, but it was a very real reality to me at that time. Right. And so as the PTSD really started to set in, and the anxiety of the situation and the pressure of it all with him not working, that kind of, I kind of like spazzed out a little bit. And then it's almost like free falling when you are commission based. You get what you put into it, but you get what you put into it.
Exactly.
So
it's the good and the bad, right?
Yes. So my brain was committed, and I was still like struggling with recovering from the trauma that we had just went through. Right. And I thought that I was ready, but I wasn't ready.
So you had a little spot of grass is greener syndrome
Yes.
going on, and you thought there was something better out there than what you're doing. And tell us a little bit about that.
So, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, so grass is redder, so to say. I got to a point where I just I got stagnant, and I needed that paycheck again. Like I got scared,
Right.
and scared money doesn't make money, right? So nothing was really working for me, and I had a lot of pride. I mean, nobody would guess that, who knows me, but I had a lot of pride, and I was just going through getting rid of that. And you can't really be effective in doing anything and helping anyone when you have that pride in the way. So it was a necessary evil for me to kind of go and do what I did. So I got hired on at State Farm. And at the time I was so desperate, I even went and applied at a restaurant. And that's where everything started, was at 16 years old in a restaurant. But then State Farm called me in, and then I got certified in property, casualty, commercial, and was about to do health. And I did that for about a year. I stayed gone. And I was making the agent a lot of money. I was out producing everybody in the office by at least 3 or 4 times when it came to commission. Wow. So I was making an hourly plus a commission, but there was these duties that you had to do every day. Like I had to call people every day and remind them to pay their bill. Right. So I was like a bill collector with 2 degrees. Right. And I was like, no, this is not going to work either. And plus, my agent was older, so he was really cranky and ornery and oh God, he was a very hard person to work for. Him and my personality.
I hope he doesn't watch YouTube.
Yeah, I hope he does, because maybe he'll work on himself. But I met some really great people, trained me really well. It was a very humbling experience because I had to submit to someone else, right. And I had to do what I was told. And I did really well. And then all of a sudden, my pay-through started showing up in my mailbox and dropping into my bank, in which that's just money I had made while I was working for Senior Life. And, Senior Life tells you, you're going to get pay-throughs and renewals and you're going to leave a legacy. And it's like, that's amazing. But really, is that going to? And sure enough, it really happened. And it was like good money too. It was like $1,200 here, $1,500 there. It was like, and then it stopped. And I was like, well, man, if I want that to keep happening, I'm going to have to go back there and make more money so this happens again. Right. But yeah, that really got my attention because the company did what they said they were going to do. And I mean, when I left mad. So I didn't expect to get any.
That's funny. So I just want to clarify. You said it wasn't working for you.
No, I was making him money. Like I was
before State Farm, before you went to State Farm.
Yeah, Senior Life.
Yeah, you said Senior Life. You said it wasn't working for you, so you left. So it wasn't working for you, or you weren't following the system?
I was not following the system. I was doing if you told me to go.
Fair for our listeners.
Absolutely. Yes, if you told me to go right, I went left, up, down, backwards, north, south, east, and west. Right. You're supposed to take a picture at your first house every morning. When you get in your car, you go to your first lead. I was walking out my front door and taking a picture of every house in my neighborhood and sending it to my mentor that I'm here.
There you go.
But she got smart and started learning the houses in my neighborhood. So the jingle was up. So
that's it. You can't get much around Jen. You might for a minute, but not for long.
Nope. She's like, that house looks way too familiar. And the fact that she's my best friend too. So,
right.
But
all right, so you're at State Farm. You start getting some pay-throughs, some of that back-end money that we tell you you're going to get.
Yeah.
You get excited.
Yeah.
And then there had to be a humbling experience to say, hey, can I come back?
Well,
what was
definitely.
that like?
Well, I mean, it was really hard because I had to.
This is actually going to be my favorite question right now.
Well, I had to admit that I needed Senior Life. Like I needed it in my life again, because even the whole time I was at State Farm, I kept telling the girls there, if these people had legacy assurance. And I kept telling the girls there about that product, and they were like, that doesn't even seem real. I was like, but it is. Yeah. And so that's what I was missing was legacy. Like And I still loved life insurance. And that's what I sold the most of when I was at State Farm.
Right.
To the point of where I tried talking to them about making me just strictly a life insurance agent. Because I got more well with time.
Right.
I just, for a little while, I just had to show up to work and not really do a lot. But like once I got my bearings back, my husband started improving, I fell back and gravitated back towards life insurance because
Right.
it was a real passion of mine. So, when I left mad. I left mad at you. I left mad at Jen. Luckily you guys were just like, but when I left, even though I left mad, you still followed me on Facebook. You still celebrated my successes on Facebook. And I was like, what kind of person does that? He's so smug. But it's what you do.
So, hey, I just want to see people win.
Yeah.
I want to see you win with me, but if that's not an option, I want to see you win wherever you're
No.
at. And that's the way I live, And I remember you told me, you're like, I'm a top producer over here. I was like, that's awesome.
I know.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
God, he's so annoying. But I could never say anything bad, though. Like, there was never a way that I could really say anything negative, even though I was, not pleasant when I left.
Right.
You guys never really held that over my head. I mean, there was a few moments where you're like, there were some I told you so moments whenever I would follow the system and do well. But, it was very humbling to have to come back. But I was very thankful for the opportunity because I was ready. I was ready to go. I'd reached that point in my life where it was time to make an imprint on the world, and this was the vehicle to do it with. And the straw that broke the camel's back is I had sold $1 million policy at State Farm. And not only did I lose my identity as an agent and became a customer service rep when I worked for an agent, and then people would call and want to talk to an agent, and it's like, but I'm an agent. And they're like, no, the agent. And I was, that was hard too.
Right.
But that $1 million policy, when he interfered and tried to take that away from me, it was a very large commission. And he told me he would pay me what he thought I deserved. Yeah. And at that moment, I was like, you think about that, and here's my 2 weeks notice.
Right.
And I left. I worked my 2 weeks notice, kept my character strong, and I walked out that door and never looked back. And then 6 months later, I took their best agent with me.
Meanwhile, I'm giving people deals, right?
Yeah.
And you got agents trying to take people deals from them.
Yep.
So now, right, you went through all that, and I think it made you stronger. I think it made you better, more well-rounded. Now you're absolutely killing it. You're selling in the field, on the phone. You got agents. You're hiring agents. I mean, tell us about what's going on now and what's the future for you. Well,
I took so I've been back officially over a year now. Got my client inquiry button. But I've been back for a year now. And the first year I really wanted to take time to get me together and make sure that I could be a mentor to, because taking on agents in an agency is a lot like being a parent. Once you take on those agents, it becomes about them and not about you anymore. So, you take your time for yourself, and then when you're ready to have kids and you're ready to have agents, then you're able to pour into them. But if you're not a full cup, you can't pour into anybody. So I needed to fill up my cup with knowledge, experience, and just to make sure that this is something that I was passionate enough about that it would be contagious to other agents. And then, so I hired a lot when I first came back. Like I hired like 50 people, put them through the course, brought them on. They fell off because I wasn't ready. Right. The will was there, but I just wasn't quite ready. They need someone
to follow.
Yes.
Yep.
And I wasn't that person quite yet. I wanted to be, and I was trying, but still not quite there.
Right.
So I stopped focusing on hiring and decided to just kind of like close it down for a minute and just produce and just produce and just produce. And so my first year, I ended being the top three. I was the number 3 agent in the Cormier Group, which was, I've never ever received a plaque or a trophy in my 20 years of sales, which makes me sound like a horrible salesman. But I guess where I worked, they just didn't have that sort of thing. I decided to not really hire anybody and just focus on that. And then I accomplished really what I set out to do, and that was be in the top of the agency, in Jen's agency. I really wanted to be the top in the price group, but that's this year.
You got to hustle for that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jen out and Bianca and all of those wonderful producers. But I just recently decided, all right, I'm ready to build an army. And so I started I was taking on people like I was taking on water.
Right.
There were people, as soon as I started posting again about I was ready to open up my agency and start taking on more agents, my inbox started filling up.
I love it.
And they were people that had been watching me,
Yep.
but I've been watching them. And one of the girls I had actually sold cars with, and she said, I was like, I've been waiting for you for about a year to reach out to me.
Dude, if you sell cars, like going from cars to insurance, it's not even not even competitive. It's such a, I mean, you sell a car for $40,000-$50,000, you get like a $300 commission.
Yep.
You sell an insurance policy that's $60 a month, you get like a $500-$600 commission. Like it's not even comparable. It's so funny, but you don't know what you don't know. I sold cars too. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. She had been watching me. I had been watching her. And so now she's actually in the course.
Awesome.
I went the other day, and it's so funny about this product is you can sell it anywhere. I went the other day to the mall to go buy 2 pairs of shoes, and I walked out selling 4 policies later and signed up the guy for the course, and he's almost finished with it.
That's
So,
awesome.
and so I've got several people in the course right now, and I have 3 agents taking their test this week. I have they're everywhere. I love mentoring and teaching people how to do this. That makes me more happy now
Right.
than producing, because I feel like I've kind of, I don't feel like,
Giving it back away.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that's exactly right.
That's absolutely right. So I got one more question for you. So what does Jen mean to you?
Well, let's see. Jen Cormier, she is, she's my best friend. And I mean, she means she's family, she's not blood, but she's family. She is been the #1 agent in the country. She is my mentor. She's my manager. She's really, I told her if something happened to my husband, I was going to move in with her and Tim. And if something happened to Tim, because he's a little bit older, then I was going to just marry her and call it a day. But yeah, she, she's a big old softie. We're like yin and yang. I'm not a big softie. And she's just she thinks with her heart.
Yeah.
And she always has the best intentions for people, but I would not be on this journey if it was not for her. Because there is no one in this world that could have convinced me to switch to free falling and to commission only. But she actually was transparent enough and showed me her bank statements.
Yeah.
She showed me her
that always
1099.
helps.
She put her money where her mouth is.
Right.
And the funny thing is with her, we had an aha moment, because when I wanted to come back a year ago, we had lunch at Don's Seafood Hut in a booth, and she cried because she had seen that I had grown while I was gone, and she was happy to have me back. And that was when we both decided that we would link arms and I would come back. And a year later, and I kid you not, a year later on the same day at that same booth, we were sitting on opposite sides of the table. And instead of me asking her for a job, we were talking about how much money we were making. We were fighting over who was going to pay the bill, and everything we had done that year. And I looked up at her and I was like, do you realize that we sat here a year ago when we decided that we were going to continue this journey together? So so now just about every Friday we have lunch at Don's Seafood Hut, and that's pretty much in that same booth or right around it. So, but yeah, she means the world to me. She's the best kind of people, best person I know. I mean, besides my husband.
That's besides the husband. I love it.
Got to put that in there because he's going to watch and be like, wait a minute. But he was a big driving factor too. Like if he wouldn't have, he told me I could do this. And when I told him I was going to come back, I really thought he was going to be like, you're crazy. But he wasn't. He was like, you're ready.
Yeah, he's been supportive.
Yes,
and that's so important.
100%.
People don't realize like it's the spouse. They have to be supportive. If they're not supportive,
You can't do it.
The agents don't make it.
No.
You can't have a negative spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. I've seen it too much. So.
No, he held me up a lot in the beginning. There was a lot of tears in the beginning. It wasn't easy. It never was. It feels easy now because, I'm totally in love with what I do. But in the beginning, there were a lot of tears just because I was like, what did I do? Because right before I left State Farm, they promoted me.
Right.
They were going to give me a new office. I got a raise. I was going to stop having to call the people that didn't pay their bills. And I was going to be able to really just focus on life insurance.
Right.
And I left money on the table. And I literally just jumped off a cliff and free fell into senior life with Jen's help and my husband's support. And my first month back, I made like $12,000.
Nothing wrong with that, huh?
No, not. I mean, I was making like I was making like 36, and that was a cap. Like there's a point where you couldn't make any more.
Right.
When you started making too much commission, the agents started getting real nervous.
Right,
so you had to like stop basically. Like don't be so amazing. So I can't work for somewhere like that.
That's funny. So again, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David, for having me.
Absolutely. So if there's something that you want to see, please put it in the comments. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. If you want to be able to keep track of any new content that we have, please hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you get the notifications. And this has been another episode of Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things with David Price.